Okay, so boom. You finally realize the power of emails and owning your own data. So you create a newsletter and get a landing page fired up. You send out your first email and bloop, it's in the promotions folder. Unless you're an e-commerce company, I'm sorry to tell you, but the promotion folder is not going to help you. This is why you should get ConvertKit. ConvertKit specializes in keeping your email in the primary folder so you can increase your open rates and communicate with your audience. They also have beautifully designed landing pages and squeeze pages for you to capture more emails. I personally love the fact that they have good support. Support from you is everything. If I have a problem, I need to know I can get someone on the line or have a video that answers all of my questions. Hustlers don't give up. They say, yo, let me figure this out. I figured it out with ConvertKit. And let's start the show. All right, let's get it. Hello and welcome to the Hustle Over Everything podcast. This is the podcast where we receive stories, tips, and strategies from entrepreneurs who've done it. Later on the show today, we have Bryan Clayton.
Bry
Yo, I'm
guy
so excited
coming
for this
in
one,
with
bro.
this, man. I loved this conversation.
Honestly. Bryan Clayton is the CEO and founder of Greenpal, an online marketplace that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. He also has sold a company for 8 figures. And we have an insightful conversation. I'm excited to share that with y'all. I'm Alex.
And I'm Owen.
And once again, it's Hustle Over Everything podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at 24/7 Hustler and on Twitter at 24/7 Hustlers. That's with an S. And if you DM us individually, if you want to talk to us individually, Owen is at Owen Asinde. I'm at Elevated Alexander. And let's jump in, bro.
Let's
What's good
jump
with you?
in,
How's the
bro.
week?
Bro, the week has been blessed. But I'm getting these new orders to stay inside, extra inside. The thing is, bro, like I was already under the impression that we are being told to being locked down. But then Doug Ford comes and says, hey guys, stay home. And then now there's like heavy policing outside now. Like, you already know what that means. Like with heavy policing, you know who's going to be the main culprits and being targeted for ticketing and etc. So I've just been under this impression like, man, like what the hell is going on? I got to stay inside the whole time. If I'm outside, I'm going to be questioned by the police to ask me where I'm going. And you never know how those interactions can pan out. So that's what's been on my mind, man. I'm just kind of like wondering, like, what's going on? Like, how's this thing playing out with the virus? Why now with these lockdowns? And are they even effective? Right? Did they make a deal with Corona to come out after a certain hour, where people can still function in their daily lives, but then Corona come outside right now? You know what I mean? But that's a joke, right? But like, you know what I'm saying? So that's what happened. That's what's been happening this week, bro. And I just people are complying with it. People are going with it, and I don't know what's gonna come out of it.
I hear you. What's going to come out of it? Honestly, I'm still sticking with my same theory that this is the effects of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So the rates are rising because everyone's starting to get sick after the 2 weeks. So now we're locking down so they can reduce that and get things balanced back out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the things happening. I think it's unfortunate. I think businesses are suffering even more. I think the lockdown's going to continue even more, which is unfortunate because we were expecting January 28th as the day that we think people are going to be somewhat free to start roaming again and start actually having some sort of
Life,
close
bro.
to life or normalcy.
Yeah.
But it's still unfortunate that we're under lockdown. So it's been tough, man. It's been tough. We're all kind of still doing it together alone. So what can we do?
There was this one meme on Twitter. It's like Doug Ford early in November is like stay home, and it's kind of like a mad emoji. Like it's like a yellow face mad emoji, and then
Yeah.
now Doug Ford just like stay home, and then it's like the red emoji that's angry and everything like that. Like the two different type of levels. Um, bro, I mean, I don't know how much longer I can stay home, man. And we need to get haircuts. We need to live, bro. We can't be caged in like this. We can't be like animals. Like stay home, like do what? I can't go outside. If I go outside, I'm being questioned. I can get a ticket. if I have a gathering, I'm getting charged like up to $1,000. I'm happy I had my birthday party before this happening, right? Thank God for that. But
Birthday gathering.
birthday gathering. Hey guys, if Corona police are listening, it was only like a family, close family and friends. So I don't want to hear I'm a Corona spreader here, but it was a good family gathering. But man, I'm just surprised how the world is turning like this. This is so, as I said, unprecedented. And I don't want to be one of those guys that say, "Oh, these are unprecedented times," and etc. You know what I mean? But like, it's weird, man. It's so weird. It just feels like very um, Big Brothery, like George Orwell, 1984. Big Brother's watching you. If you guys go out, Big Brother's like watching you, and like they've got the cops out here working for the big brother, like, hey, where's your mask, what are you doing? I understand it's a health virus, but like, bro, like, just the
Bless me.
bless you, bro, just the way they're going on about it, it's very, you know bless
Bless me.
bless 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 up. It's very, it's just, I just don't, it's just very, it makes you feel like your rights and freedoms are being taken away just for a living, and I just don't feel like it's right.
Did you get the text or the alert on your phone?
Yeah,
Make
I
sure you
thought it was
stay inside
extra.
unless you're going to get food or work out. It's like, okay.
It's so confusing.
Yeah, it's very confusing. But, what can we really do? The rates are going up, the numbers are going up. So do we just live life normalcy? Oh man, I'm seeing Atlanta is open. Yo, do you want to move to Atlanta?
Man, I'd be more than happy to do that. I'm seeing our guy Ayodele. We had him on the podcast. Guys, listen to that. How to get a job in tech. He posted up with his boys, bro. Like they're at the club. No, he's in a club. They were at a big house gathering. No mask. They're living, bro. Ciroc on the ice, everything like that. And I'm like, rah, like, and it's hot too in Atlanta.
Yeah. Or Florida, Miami. Yo, we can get out of here, man. We can both work virtually and still live life.
Bro, yeah, man. I can. I mean, we do have. Is the border open? Can we go?
We can go. It's just that can you get back? That's the real question.
Yeah.
So
And my brother and his fiance just moved out of New York, so I have no one in the East Coast to like have family with.
really,
Yeah, my brother and his missus, my bro's now wife was living downtown Manhattan, so it allowed me to go to New York a lot. But now I can't even go there because they just moved to Taiwan.
mm,
Yeah, so I mean, we can find a place. I mean, places cheap there.
yeah, man. I have family in Atlanta.
Oh, you do, eh?
I got family in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, bro. Yo, you gotta talk about it. Should we move? Yo, listeners, what do you think? Hustlers, what do you think? Should we move to Atlanta and get out of here? You know,
Atalanta.
where man. That being said, man, let's hop into the business tip of the week.
That's the business
Um,
tip of the week, man. Is this the second business tip of the week?
second of 2021.
2021, man. Yeah.
21, 21, 21. All right. So real quick, I'm gonna keep this simple and plain. You know, sticking to Facebook ads. One thing I've seen a lot of people get value out of is Instagram ads. Everybody in the mom is posting on Instagram right now. I'm seeing a lot of my friends create their own Instagram ads. And real quick, if you're still using the boost button, once again, stop doing the boost button. Get an ads manager account, get an ad account, start doing it yourself and doing yourself tremendous disservice. All right, enough of my PSA. One thing a lot of us are considering doing is targeting people who have the most interest in our account. So if you're thinking about doing this with your Instagram ad, there's one way you can create a custom audience that only shows your ads to people who have engaged with your post or have saved your post. Because right now, one of the strongest Instagram algorithm factors is saves. If you didn't know that, now you know. So with that, if you go to your ad account and go to audiences, and from audiences, you click on custom audience or create an audience and then custom audience, then you're going to go to Instagram account, hit next, and then if you say click on your Instagram account and you'll see events. Under that, you'll see people who saved any post or ad. Very simple, but easy way to target people who are highly engaged with your Instagram account and could be most likely to buy. Of course, there's other aspects that are very important too, like people who've added to cart, people who have reached the thank you page, people who are on your email list. These are all important people too, but this is a new audience that you can target that Facebook has just allowed us to target. So that's one thing. That's an easy tip that you can use to make more money for yourself. With that being said, man, that wraps up my business tip of the week. Keeping it simple and plain.
Yeah, a lot of people need to hear that, man. I mean, Facebook ads is a monster to master. And I think what Facebook has done, it's made it very easy to make the normal person who's very new to ads to, to be quite frank, waste money by doing things that are prompted right then and there. It's like, oh, you want to get more viewers on this? Oh, you want to get more reach?
Hmm.
Oh, just put $5 and you're gonna reach this, right? It's such a
Hmm.
money grab, but there's an
Hmm.
art to it, there's a science to it, there's timing, there's different devices, audiences that people need to be educated about, man. And I gotta give it to you, bro. Like, great work on the work that you're doing with helping people learn, but with your free, um, is it the
Workshop.
workshop?
Yeah.
I was gonna call it webinar, but I'm thankful you came in and said workshop. So you had how many people did you have in your recent workshop?
Man, it was good, man. I had like what I think like 100 registrants on it, over 100, like 150 altogether. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And we're gonna do a part two because you ran out of time. We were rocking for like an hour and a half. Everybody stayed in the chat.
Hmm.
It was great, man. So if any of y'all tuned in, I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
We're gonna run it back with the part two. And we're actually gonna connect with Carlina. Shout out to Carlina for with the Biz Mixer,
Hmm.
and we're gonna link something there as well. So I'm excited to see what we can do. And y'all got to sign up because soon it's gonna get paid, man. Right now it's free, but we're working out the kinks, and it's gonna be paid the next one. So if you haven't tuned in yet, make sure you tune in ASAP because I won't want y'all to lose out on opportunity. You're doing such tremendous disservice if you're trying to advertise on Facebook and still hitting the boost. Paying attention to those prompts by Instagram saying your post is doing 95% better than the other post.
Hmm.
Would you like to boost it? And then boosting it, don't do it. Don't do it. You need other
Hmm.
aspects of it. How's your copy? You need to actually uh, strategize
Hmm.
on your Facebook ads. It's not that simple. So if you want to get in touch, man, get LinkedIn, holla at me, give me a DM, email me. All that's in the description. So feel free. And with that being said, let's hop into the Hustle Nation, bruh.
Exactly, man. All right, guys, you know what time it is. It's Mr. Hustle Muscle here with your Hustle Nation tip of the week. So, from our previous episode, we spoke about the legendary PayPal Mafia. This group consisted of the founders of PayPal who went to launch prolific companies that have impacted all of us in a great way. Companies such as LinkedIn, Yelp, YouTube, and SpaceX, just to name a few. So, all these great minds built a business and went on to launch other great businesses. And this got me thinking about who we hang around and associate with each day. To start off, we all want success in our business, in our finances, and in our relationships. There's no clear one size fits all path to success. Through my years of being an entrepreneur, I've learned to be successful in business. You have to know your purpose, believe in yourself, take action, measure your results, and never give up. Our overall purpose is to not only be successful entrepreneurs, but to also bring the best out of ourselves each day. Let's say that our goal is to have a fulfilling life. The most important tool at our disposal of having a fulfilling life is other people. The people we surround ourselves with, they are the biggest influence on our behavior, attitudes, and results. So let's dig a little bit deeper. The people you spend the most time with have a huge influence on your moods, how you view the world, and the expectations you have of yourself. Just as you benefit when you surround yourself with the people who make you happy, you suffer when those in your business or social circles are negative or narrow minded. Research by social psychologist by the name of David McClellan from Harvard, he says the people you associate with determine 95% of your success or failure in life. 95%, guys. I mean, that's a big deal. You can't leave this to chance. You know, it can be uncomfortable to step away from professional relationships that are lacking. You don't want to burn bridges, and you might have known some of these friends or colleagues for a long time, but it's at the end of your comfort zone where the magic starts to happen. If you want to accelerate your success, it's important to surround yourself with successful people you can learn from. They have a strategy for success, whether they know it or not. And by spending time with them, you can develop a similar one. More importantly, if you do all the right things but don't get around people who hold you to a higher standard, attaining your goals becomes much tougher. The lesson here is to actively construct your social environment. Don't let it depend on proximity or chance or on how it has always been. Consciously plan who you do and do not allow to be in your life. You take on the behaviors and the ideas of who you associate with every day. You subconsciously become them and you embody them in your mannerisms, thoughts, speech, and outlook. So, as we head into this brand new year, keep this in mind as you mold yourself to become a great entrepreneur and person. Always monitor who you associate with and you have a positive life. And that is the Hustle Nation tip of the week. It's Mr. Hustle Muscle here. I'm praying for all you guys to have a great week and a great month. So let's start off January and let's get it, baby. Let's go.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop into our housekeeping items and into our pod with Bryan Clayton. Let's go.
Let's get it.
Hey, what's up, guys? To support this show for free, here are some main options. If you're on Apple, make sure you rate and write a review of our podcast. This makes a huge difference and helps support the show. If you're on Spotify, follow us. If you're on Google Play, hit subscribe and auto download so you'll be notified and have a fresh pod ready to go when we drop. Lastly, make sure you share the podcast on Instagram or whichever social platform you use and tag us. On Twitter, we're at 24/7 Hustlers. On Instagram, we're at 24/7 Hustler. And on Facebook, we're Hustle Over Everything. And now, guys, you gotta pay attention to this point. We just dropped a new newsletter. It's called The Underrated. It's a weekly newsletter that breaks down untold stories that highlight game-changing business strategies that shape our sports, music, and culture. It drops once a week on Mondays, early in the morning, to prep you for the week. So subscribe to that, and we'll see you in the pod.
Tell us when you're ready to hit record.
Just did. All right, let's go. Bryan, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me on, man. Great to be here.
Well, 100%, man. To get started, I want to start with a icebreaker. You know, I found out something interesting about you. I want to tell the audience. You got bitten by a dog in 2013, was it?
Yeah, boy. I got bit by a dog twice. Yeah. So, long story short, I started this company, Greenpal, with two of my friends, and it's basically the Uber for lawn mowing. And so we didn't know the first thing about marketing or distribution or anything like that. Matter of fact, we didn't know how to code or design software. We just got going. We paid a shop in Nashville to build Greenpal. And when we launched it, we didn't have any customers and we had no way to market it. We didn't know what we were doing, but there was something I did know how to do, is pass out door hangers.
Yes.
And
that's the grind right there.
Yeah, we got like 500,000 of these things printed up. And we just every day in the summer of 2013 just hoofed it around Nashville, Tennessee, hanging door hangers. And throughout doing that, I got bit by a dog twice. And I realized, wow, this is not a scalable user acquisition strategy. Because one dog bite per 5 customers was not how I wanted to build a business. So, yeah, but I mean, it was a thing we had to do to get some people to use this thing that we thought was a good idea and that we built to get some feedback. So, but it was, I had kind of forgotten about that. Thanks for bringing it back up.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting story. I mean, that's what you got to go through to build, is like these stories like make you who you are. But before we get into Greenpal, how did you even get into the lawn care business?
I was drug into entrepreneurship and business ownership, kicking and screaming by my father. Luckily, on a hot summer day in the late '90s, he busted in my room when I was playing Super Mario World, and he said, "Hey, listen, we got a job to do. We're gonna go mow the neighbor's yard." And he made me go cut the neighbor's grass, and I got paid $20, and it was a great feeling. It was something, a day I'll never forget, because it was the day I discovered that, wow, this is great. I just worked for an hour and I made $20. It's amazing. And by the end of that summer, I had like 5 or 10 customers in the neighborhood that I was mowing yards for. I just stuck with that business, stuck with it all through high school, all through college. And when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. Was I going to go into the job market and take a pay cut, or was I just going to stick with this landscaping business that I had going? I didn't want to be a landscaper. I didn't go to business school to learn how to cut grass, but
Yeah.
but it was just an economic decision for me, and I laid out a little business plan that, with what little I learned from business school, I
Mhm.
laid out a little business plan, and I had a 5-year plan, and I accomplished what I set out to do in 5 years in three. And over a 15-year period of time, I built that business to over $8 million a year in revenue, over 150 employees. And in 2013, that business was acquired by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. So building that business just from me and a push mower to me and over 150 people, I learned a lot just through trial and error on how to build a business from scratch.
Man, that's incredible, man. All right,
That's
so
true entrepreneurship. It's not tech, whatever, sold a company. It's like, hey, we start a lawnmower and we sold a business. Like, you know?
Yeah, it took 15 years to do it too. It's just one of those things that you get in there, you try stuff, you keep going, you don't give up, you learn from your mistakes, and you rinse and repeat. The thing looking back 20 years of business is that you can treat it like a video game almost. If you really just focus on one level at a time and not worry about what I call like Bowser related issues, because you're not on level 9 and 10. You don't need to worry about Bowser. You need to worry about level one. You need to get
Mhm.
through level one, then get to level two.
yeah, that's a fact. All right, so that's what I'm gonna ask you about those Bowser levels. Like, and
Mhm.
so we're on the early stages of your first business. How did you scale that first business up? Because there weren't no Facebook ads back then. There weren't
Right.
no, easy acquisition sources that we kind of gotten acclimatized to. How'd you grow that business up?
Yeah.
Yeah, in many ways, it's easier today than it's ever been to get started and market your business. Back then in the '90s, not only did we not have digital marketing, I mean, Google was just now getting started. And so really it was a lot of hand-to-hand combat, a lot of word of
Mhm.
mouth, a lot of flyers, a lot of direct mail. And those were the things that I experimented with. So it was a little simpler, but it was harder. But one thing I always tried to focus on was, okay, I'm doing this job now. Like in the early days, I was cutting grass for like the
Mhm.
first 3 years. And it's like, okay, I'm doing this job now. This is my role, but I want to replace myself. And I want to figure out a way of how I'm going to delegate this. And so for me, like through my first 5 employees, it was like, okay, now I've got one crew going. I'm running another crew. And that was like the hardest part of like that stage of the game was hiring my first 2 or 3 employees, because you're doubling and tripling your business. And so just always trying to figure out, like, how are you going to replace what it is you're doing so you can move on to a higher and better use of your time. And so
Mm,
it might have been, okay, now I got 3 crews, I'm running one of them, and
mm,
I'm doing sales while I'm in the truck.
Yeah.
mm,
And that was like 2 years of my life. I would run a crew cutting grass, and then I would cold call McDonald's, Cracker Barrel,
Mhm.
Hilton Hotels, whoever. Can I come cut your grass? And so I would do like 100 phone calls a day while my crew was cutting grass. And then I was finally able to like hire a third crew foreman to where I could do full-time sales all day, every day. I didn't have to be in the trenches mowing yards. And then after about 3 years of that, I was able to hire a sales manager to do that job. So kind of this idea of doing the roles, doing the work, and then figuring out ways to put people in those slots is something that over a 15-year period of time, I was able to get some momentum behind and build a team around me.
Mhm.
was it chicken before the egg? Like, were you saying, all right, I have 5 clients now. Let me go out and try to hire one person and try to, put them in place? Or were you like, all right, let me cold call 10 people. I get 3 people to sign on. All right, now that I got that, I'm hiring them. Or do you have like a short list? Like, that's where I am at with my business, where I'm like
Yeah.
thinking about, firing myself and getting new clients to come in. So I'd love to get more insight there.
Yeah. When it came to production workers, laborers, people that I was training on. Okay, this is how we mow a yard. This is how we do it. This is why we do it this way. Layering those people on as sales grew was a little more straightforward. Where it was challenging, and to your point, is hiring that first sales guy, because here we are, like I'm paying myself a decent salary, but I know if I'm going to hire a sales guy, I'm going to have to literally pay them more than I'm making. And so there was like a 2-year period of time where I'm paying this person who's got a good sales background, and they're working a system that I've kind of laid out, and we're kind of formulating the system together, but they were making more money than I was. But
Mm.
that was something that I was willing to like experiment with and do for a period of time, because I knew, like, okay, if I can get this business over $2 million in revenue, I can figure out how to get it to 5. And if I can figure out how to get it to 5, I can get it to 10. And so, like, really taking the long view of building that company, and willing to like go through those short-term sacrifices, not just because you love the grind, you love the hustle, but because you know that you're going to learn more over that short period of time, that how you're going to apply it to something more sustainable. I think is what enabled me to build that business from scratch, with no outside capital, no investors, and debt free.
So, like, scaling it that far and getting it to that position, what led you to it getting acquired?
Yeah, so I learned something about myself, building and selling that company. I learned that wow, like the business is really more like the thrust of my life, of who I am.
Mhm.
Like I read this book, by an author named Donald Miller, and it's called a Million Miles in a Thousand Years. And one thing he talks about in that book is that to live an interesting life, you have to live an interesting story. And
Mhm.
so if you think about yourself as the main character in your story, you're going through all these trials and tribulations, and you're overcoming conflict, and you're getting to like the goal, you're getting to the mountaintop. And I thought about it, I was like, for me, my business is the storyline.
Mhm.
It is the thing that causes my life to be interesting. It is the thing that causes me to get out of bed in the morning, to level up, to be better. And so I got to a point of building that company, that I'd gotten to the top. It was one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of
Mhm.
Tennessee. It was no longer, something that I got personal fulfillment from. I had gotten it as far as I wanted to take it. And that's when I made the decision. It was like, okay, as far as like a storyline goes, the story's getting boring. The story is getting to a part of the movie you might want to fast forward through. And so I made the decision. It's like, okay, I'm gonna sell this business. And from the day I made that decision to the day like I got a wire transfer was 2 years. And that was a really, really difficult 2 years, because you've made the decision that, okay, this is no longer going to be your thing one day, and you're like trying to groom it as well you can to get it acquired. It was challenging, but I'm glad I did it, because that opened me up to my second act, I guess, if you will, which is
Greenpal.
Greenpal, which is kind of like the Uber for lawn mowing.
Yeah, so let's get into Greenpal, because that's your bread and butter right now. You spoke about building Greenpal, right? You're a guy who's in lawn care. You're in the lawn care business. You have no technology background. Building such a platform of this scale, you know, is challenging. How did you go about building the first MVP? Because you spoke about it earlier, how you had to learn how to code. You had to do all these things. So, how's that first experience building the platform?
Yeah, lucky for me, I was naive and I didn't know what I didn't know. And so so what happened was I sold this business, I retired, and then it's like, wow, who am I? What do I do now? What does all this mean? And so what I learned was that, okay, I got to get back in the game. I got to get
Mhm.
back to building something that is creating opportunities for my team members, for customers, for users. And I thought, okay, you got to get back in the arena. Let's do the next thing. And the idea for Greenpal was a simple one for me, because it was basically solving my own problem. I saw how difficult it was for homeowners to get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service. For 15 years, I saw this, and so
Mhm.
the idea was like, okay, this has to exist. This needs to exist in the world. I recruited 2 co-founders and we went to work on it. Luckily, we didn't know what we didn't know, and we didn't understand how difficult it was to execute and compete in a technology-based business. We genuinely believed that we would just pay a development shop in Nashville, to where we live, to build Greenpal, and we would market it and we would be like off and running. And man, that was just not how it unfolded. Like we spent $150,000 building Greenpal. It took these guys like 7 months to build it, And this was not like money we had laying around. Like, yeah, I had just sold my business, but I
Mm.
locked all that down. I knew I never wanted to pick up a weed eater ever again. And so it wasn't like Daddy Warbucks came to the table and was just going to
Mhm.
bankroll this thing. That's not how it happened. Like, it had to like breathe itself into existence. And so we got together $150,000, like, liquidating 401ks, credit cards, all that. And we build this thing and we launch it, and it's a total flop, total unmitigated failure. It was clunky, hard to use. It was just didn't fulfill the promise of push a button, get the grass cut. And we
Mhm.
were like, oh wow, this is going to be really hard. This is going to be
Yeah.
this is going to be really, really hard. And so, like, we like I was telling you when we first started, we passed out door hangers to try to get
Mhm.
people to use it. We got bit by dogs. We got cussed at, but we were able to attract a few hundred people to use what we had paid to get built.
Mhm.
And we met with as many of those people that would meet with us, and we would talk to them. And the one thing we kept coming across was like, they were disappointed that it sucked.
Mhm.
They were at least like upset that it didn't fulfill the promise. And
Mhm.
for us, that was enough validation to know that, yeah, okay, it didn't work. Like, they hired somebody and they didn't show up, or they hired somebody and it did a crappy job, or they listed their lawn for bids, but it didn't get any quotes. Like, it
Mhm.
failed, but at least the people who like were trying it out were disappointed
Mhm.
because they wanted it to solve their problem. That was just enough validation for us to keep going. And we just went to work on ourselves, learning how to code, learning how to design, learning how to market software, and that took like 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs like they have a tech, especially the ones who can't build technology. It's like one of the worst things you could do is pay a firm
Mm,
to do it, because you need that iteration every single day in case something happens
right.
to build on top of it. So, what did you learn from that process of having an external firm do it? Because that's a major point of entrepreneurs right now is they get someone to build a technology, then they think that's what's going to help them get their business off and running.
Yeah, you can't. And what we learned, what took us a year and 150 grand, was you can't be in the tech business if you can't execute tech. And so you're gonna have to have that as a core competency of what you're doing.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you don't even know how to manage it. You don't know how to delegate it. And so, one thing, we've got a team of 23 people that work in the business now, and we've gotten really good at delegating this stuff. But so the moral of the story is like, why didn't you just delegate it sooner? Well, we tried and we didn't know what we were delegating. So you kind of
Mhm.
have to do this stuff and get like 80-20 good at it before you can delegate it. And so that was just a shortcut that you that we tried to make, and you just can't. And so I think, like, on the one hand, yeah, you can pay a dev shop to get you started, and that's great. It gets you in the game, but just know it's going to be like a long, hard slog, because you're going to have to learn how to do this stuff along the way, and it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years before you're self-executing.
Mhm.
And that's at least how it unfolded for us. But don't think that you're going to like start the next app for whatever, and like somebody on your team, a co-founder, is not going to be writing code, because it's just unrealistic.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask you that. Did you learn code from that, or how did that process go from once you realized it was a bust to getting it back up and running? What was that process like, getting it to its actual like functional state?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we launched this thing the summer of 2013. We hustled up like 100 people to try it, and we had maybe at the end of the first year 20 users. Half of them were my friends and family, and we were like,
I
oh
hear
man,
you.
we're gonna. And so then we try to start like peeling away the layers, to iterate on top of what we paid these guys to build. And what we found out was that it was such a turd that we just couldn't fix it. So we had to
Mhm.
start from scratch. And so my co-founder, he was like, well, I guess I'll go to software school. There was a software school here in Nashville, like an 8-month program, and he went full time. And then he worked. He would like learn some stuff that day, and then he would like start working at night on
Mhm.
on rebuilding the bare feature set we needed. Then I learned how to do front end stuff like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, to like a bare minimum level. That took me probably 6 months. And then I would work on the front end, and then my other co-founder would work on the product in terms of like how do we like wireframe these interfaces together and put together some kind of prototype and then try to get feedback on that prototype to even know what the hell we're trying to build. And it took us months to even figure out like that's what we should be doing. And so it took a full year of doing that with the crappy version live, and it was probably a year and a half until we launched the second version. And then the second version was also terrible, but at least it was something that we could improve along the way.
Yeah.
And so all of that, we're doing all of that, and at the same time we're just trying to get like supply and demand to overlap and create some sort of like critical mass just in Nashville. And so we would set little goals where okay, we just want to do 100 transactions in 1 week. That's it. And everything we're doing is trying to fix the problems the platform has, and trying to add the features the platform needs, and trying to hustle up as much traffic as we can to get 100 users a week, 100 transactions a week.
That's incredible.
And it took like 2 years to accomplish that goal.
Damn.
And we finally got there, and it was okay. Now we want to get 1,000, and it took us like another 2 years to get 1,000. Now we do tens of thousands a day, but it started off very, 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 very small, very humbly. But we just, we didn't quit because, quite frankly, like for me personally, I'm always going to be working on my best idea, and I don't have a whole lot of ideas, so this was it. Like it was the only way to move was forward.
Yeah.
Real quick, I wanted to like paint the picture as well. How were you getting paid during that time, and how was the team getting paid?
We just weren't. We flat out weren't. First 3 years, no salaries. Me personally, I had positioned myself in terms of my personal finances really kind of. When I sold my first business, I sold everything I had. I became a minimalist. So I'm living in like a little studio apartment, and it really didn't cost me a whole lot to survive. And so I'm kind of living off of my investments that I had made. So for me personally, I'm working full time in this thing, no salary. And then my other two co-founders were still working full-time jobs, and working on this stuff nights and weekends. And then it was like, okay, we got just enough money where we can pay you like $400 a week. And they quit their job at Dell. And kind of that was like a burn the boats type of decision. It was kind of like, okay, there's no going back because you just quit this job where you were making, 60, 70, 80 grand a year. You don't want to go back there with your tail tucked. And so they took a big pay cut, but at least we were working on something that we owned. And I mean, it was excruciating. I mean, in the early years, my co-founder, because when we got decent at coding, like my co-founder learned enough to rebuild the back end, and I'm rebuilding the front end. We're just now at a period of time where we knew okay, now we need some help. We need to pay an engineer to help us continue to build this thing. And we would get on sites like Odesk and Elance, and we would try to hire engineers to help us build this thing. And like, back in those days, you could get a good engineer in Pakistan for $20 or $30 an hour. Also, back in those days, you could drive for Uber and make $20 or $30 an hour.
Yeah.
And so,
no more.
Not anymore. Yo.
Yeah.
But not anymore. But back in 2014 or 2015, you could. And so my co-founder would drive for Lyft and Uber. He would make for like every hour he worked, that was another hour of dev time we could buy.
Wow.
And so that was like a year of that, and that bridged the gap between not knowing crap to okay, we got a little bit of a team doing stuff. And as soon as we started like building the stuff that people wanted and the feedback we were getting from users and making them happier and happier and happier, did we pick up some momentum and actually get some steam behind us.
Nice. So let's talk about like growing the marketplace, right? Marketplaces are difficult businesses to grow just because you got two sides to it. So for your business, you have the service providers, and then you have the homeowners. So once you launch the business to a serviceable, like viable product, how did you get the service providers to come on the platform when they didn't even know about you?
Yeah. So, in the early days, one of the only things we had to our advantage was focus. We had 3 dudes working, 80, 100 hours a week trying to make one thing work in Nashville. And you got to think, I had a business that was doing $10 million a year in revenue. Like, we mowed more yards in a day with that business than my new tech company did in a year. So
Yeah.
like that sucked. That was humbling.
Mm.
But we were just really trying to figure out how can we make this work just in Nashville. And so in the early days, we didn't have a really good product, didn't have a compelling value proposition for lawn mowing services, but I would cold call them off of Craigslist, Yelp, Facebook, Thumbtack, you name it. And I would say I would just pitch them on the idea, and I would say, and just try it out, use it. I'm going to do everything I can to help you make some more money this year, and also I will give you free coaching on how to grow your lawn mowing business, because I was kind of a known commodity in Nashville, Tennessee. If you mowed yards in Nashville, you knew who I was. So like really, really, really niche this thing down. I was like a name among dudes who made their living mowing yards in Middle Tennessee. So they knew who I was. And so I was able to get our first 100 service providers just with that kind of conversation. It's like, it's free to use. Just use it. Let me know what you want it to do, where it sucks, what you wish it would do, and I'll also help you grow your business in any way that I can along the way. So that kind of dynamic is what got us to our first 100 service providers. Like the first 500 people that used it to cut grass had my cell number and would hit me up 7 days a week. And so that did a couple things. It enabled us to kind of like get the supply side onto the platform and get their attention for a period of time. But it also was a never ending river of feedback to me personally to know where we needed to be focusing on and what we needed to be building. And then from there, we were able to apply that. Okay, we're going to launch our second city, our third city, our fourth city into more of a
Mm.
self-service onboarding. But
Yeah.
in the early days, it was very much hand cranking.
Hello, but as you're growing the service providers, now you need to focus on the actual users. I think that's a lot tougher because a lot of times people who create these apps are the people who are in the service provider section like you were. But getting the users though is a lot tougher. Walk us through how you created a good user base.
Yeah, to your point, let's say you had a barbershop and you had four chairs in there. Would you rather have a line of 100 people outside wanting their haircut, or would you rather have like too many barbers? Obviously, you will really would rather have a line of people around the block. So
Hmm.
that's the harder part of the transaction in most cases, in most marketplaces. Definitely is for ours. We knew we could get supply on board if so long we could get demand.
Hmm.
And so that's where focus came into play again. We focus just on Nashville, and we try to figure out, okay, how can we get 100 people a week to sign up for a lawn mowing service in Nashville? And we would try everything. Like I said, we tried door hangers, we tried Facebook ads, Google ads, Pinterest ads, Instagram ads. We tried everything. We just could not get anything to like break loose. And then the only thing that really started clicking for us was organic search, people searching for lawn mowing service nearby me, lawn mowing service Nashville, Tennessee, lawn mowing service East Nashville, Tennessee. And we really started trying to build out content and compete for these types of search queries. And there again, we started to learn really quick early on. Wow, this is really, 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 really hard. Like competing with the Thumbtacks of the world and the Angie's List and Home Advisors of the world. It was really, really hard because our domain didn't have the authority. And we started understanding, wow, if we're going to really try to make search our main acquisition channel, it's a bet the company decision. And that was a decision we made early on, just out of lack of options. We knew, okay, well, we're just going to bet the company on search, and we're going to throw everything we can into it. And so if you do that, you need to know that like half of whatever it is you're doing is building the product, satisfying users, laying out like the feature set and like executing a product roadmap. But then like the other entire half of what you're doing is working on SEO. It's a core competency of the company in terms of creating the content, building the platform to be congruent with what Google wants, and then doing the outreach around getting backlinks and PR and all that. It's just like my co-founder to this day, all he does is PR. And he's doing PR just to keep our name in the lights, but also for our SEO strategy. And so it's a lot of work, but it's one that you can accumulate equity in, and it's one that makes your business a little bit more durable. And so here we are, 8 years in. We do really well off SEO. In fact, that's still how we get half of our users. The other half just come through word of mouth. We still don't do any paid marketing.
Interesting. Hold on. So it's all organic SEO, not
All
just
organic. Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Because here's the thing: if you're gonna if you're going to try to compete in paid channels, a lot of times, paid channels are great as a complementary channel in terms of like, okay, I'm already doing well. Now I want to do like 10 or 20% better. I'm going to start paying for traffic. But it's really hard to like, it's really, really, really difficult to make the economics work in any business, not even just a marketplace, but any business. It's really hard to make the economics work to where you can just buy traffic and that just carry you all the way through. You rarely see that happen. And a lot of times this is what happens. It's like Uber for X, Uber for laundry service, Uber for home cleaners. They raise $20 million. They give it all right back to Google. And then they don't have a business. They can't raise another 50, so it's lights out, and it's a sad story. Everybody lost their money, and those entrepreneurs wasted 4 years of their life.
No, that's incredible. Go ahead, Owen.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, what's the business model behind Greenpal? Like, what's your take rate towards the service providers? And talk more about that.
Yeah, so it's a true marketplace. We connect homeowners with people that want to make a living cutting grass, and so we take a transactional fee, 10% of all of the transactions that a vendor does on the platform, and then we also charge a fee for like our premium vendors that want to use some additional tools. If they want to like pay for additional tools like route optimization or premium placement in the marketplace, so we make money two ways. Our main like true north is how much money can we make service providers that come onto our platform. That's how we gauge success, because if they make money, the platform makes money. And if the platform makes money, then we can reinvest it back in more better SEO, more features, just get these people more homeowners to cut grass for. And so that's helped us like for 8 years. I mean, in terms of not like get led astray, we know what we're trying to do. We know the things we have to work on, because we want to do one thing, is make guys that cut grass more money.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how we've aligned our interests, and it never has like led us down the wrong path. And so the way we kind of like measure that and celebrate those wins is we're looking at, okay, in every single metro, because every metro is different, who are the top lawn mowing services in that metro, how much are they growing revenue, but also here are the new ones, how do we feed them more yards? And it's like over time we've gotten pretty good at like the mechanics of a marketplace. In the early days it was not that robust, but as time went on, we got better and better and better at matching supply with demand, and kind of spreading the love, so to speak, to help out the new service providers, but also make sure that the existing ones are making good money too.
So one of the things about marketplaces is once you build a big enough customer base on a marketplace, it's easy to get tempted to leave the marketplace to avoid the transaction fees. For example, your lawn care service providers would want to have a good customer base who gives them repeat business, and they're like, you know what, let's leave Greenpal so we can avoid this service fee. Have you dealt with that situation before?
Not as much as you would anticipate, for a couple of reasons. Yeah, it's happened, and it does happen every now and then. But the way we've always looked at it was we knew it was going to happen. In the early days, like I said, the first couple hundred service providers knew me personally. So like it didn't happen because we had a relationship. But then as we grew to 1,000, 2,000, and the product still sucked, that happened. And so it in the way we looked at it was, it's not happening to us, it's happening for us. Because that's an indicator of, okay, you're not adding enough value. Your platform is not adding enough. The value proposition's weak on both sides of the transaction. And so as time went on and we start to really unpack, okay, why is this happening? Why did this guy want to go take a cash payment when it only costs him a few bucks to get paid on the platform? And why would that homeowner want to do that? And so we really started to unpack, okay, well, it was because this person is only mowing 4 yards on Greenpal. And so we started to really understand, okay, we have to work our ass off to get you 50 weekly customers to where there's lock-in, to where there's no reason to even do it the old way anymore. And so it's like, okay, I gotta like hassle Mrs. Smith to Venmo me at the end of the month, or she's going to leave cash under the mat, and then the other thing too is like the lawn guy is the last guy to get paid. And so it's like they have accounts going like 60 and 90 days. And so we solve all that for service providers. For homeowners, it's like there's this weird phenomenon. It's like the case of the disappearing lawn guy. Like he'll do great for 3 weeks and then he just poof disappears. And so a lot of the homeowners that come to our platform, they've experienced that. And they're like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to leaving this guy voicemails or
Mhm.
whatever to hassle him to come cut my grass. For them, they sign up and they experience the convenience of, wow, I just push a button and it just happens all year long. And it's like invisible. My credit card just gets billed or my debit card gets billed. They don't want to go back to doing it the old way either. And so as time has gone on, we've increased the value proposition on both sides of the transaction to where it's just a no-brainer, almost to the extent of like if you take an Uber ride and at the end of the ride you're like, hey, maybe you might want to cancel this and we can each save $1. Like we're not quite there, but as time goes on we get closer to there to where disintermediation isn't even a factor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Um, one thing that like we have as well is that customers, like, they can be fickle as well, and sometimes they can bounce from platform to platform. Like sometimes people take Uber, sometimes people take Lyft. How do you maintain like a strong LTV with customers?
Yeah. So in the case of Uber and Lyft, they are selling a like a homogeneous, commoditized service. You don't care who rolls up and picks you up, so long as they're not
Got
going to
you.
crash,
Mhm.
and the car doesn't stink and they don't like talk your head off the whole time. You really don't care.
Yeah.
In the case of lawn mowing services, it's more like heterogeneous. Like you care. You want the same service, not only the same service, but the same guy or gal weed eating your yard every week because they know it. They do a good job, a nice clean job. They know about the little lawn gnome in the backyard. They know not to rut up this part of the yard because it's wet all the time. They know not to spray grass all over your car. They know not to like run over the bunny in the middle of the front yard. Like there's all these like nuances, and it takes a couple of times cutting a yard to get good at it and to get familiar with it. So it's our goal to power that for as long as you live in that home with that one service provider. Now, sometimes that service provider goes out of business or they get in over their head or they lose their help or their equipment gets stolen. And so when those cases happen, touch of a button, you hire somebody else. But you really don't want somebody else every week or really even every season. You want to hire one good service at a good price and like let that just ride. And so that's how we create lock-in for homeowners. The other thing is our biggest competition is the status quo. We really don't have any competition in terms of like Uber Lyft. It's not like you can use Greenpal and then jump over to something else and it's the same experience. There are other ways to hire a lawn mowing service from a website. You can get on Angie's List or Thumbtack, but those are still just names and numbers, and you have to like cold call them and poll them. And then there's a couple other services. One's called Lawn Starter, which they're doing a really good job, but they are your lawn mowing service. And so it's like you use their
Got you.
app and they're just
Taxi.
subcontracting it to
Yeah.
the guy in your neighborhood. There is no other like fluid liquid marketplace in terms of, let's say I live in Toledo, Ohio. I punch in my address. I get 5 quotes back. I can read reviews on all of these guys and gals, and I can hire the person I want to hire. There's no other marketplace in the world that operates like ours.
Got you. And what's like the average like order of a lawn? Like what does that usually cost? And like
Yeah, it depends on what part of the country you're in. Nationwide, the average is around $35, and most of our homeowners that use the platform get their grass cut every 2 weeks. And so you're talking $70 a month. You don't have to worry about this. And the thing that was surprising when we started this business, I came from running a landscaping business, and most of my clientele was like on the higher end, like the higher part, the nicer parts of town, or like a household income of like 250 grand or up.
And
That was
Dave Ramsey, right?
Yeah, worked for Dave. Did work for Dave Ramsey for like 5 years. Like these were my customers, right? Like higher end, high margin. And so when we started passing out those door hangers 8 years ago, that was the part of town that we went to. And what we learned really quickly was, wow, that's not our customer. Our customer is the person that lives on the working class side of town, the person that lives in like the $60,000 or $50,000 or $30,000 a year household income, who just has understood that they're making less than minimum wage mowing their own yard. And so we understood that really early, that we're actually making lawn mowing service cheaper, more reliable, and more accessible to down market than up market.
Mhm.
And so that as time has gone on, we've made it more accessible and more economical for somebody who maybe is working like two full-time jobs, but understands that they can make $20 an hour in a full-time job, but by the time they cut their own grass, maintain a lawnmower, and deal with all of the BS that goes with it, they're making less than $7 an hour. And so that's as time has gone on, that's how we've identified that's our strong value proposition is to working class folks.
How
Gotcha.
many active users from a service providers do you have on the platform, and how much, like, what's the average, like what's the average, like they'll cut in a week, let's say. So you have like a service provider. What is like the lowest number a new service provider, like when they come on the business, will they get on the first week of the platform, and etc.
Yeah. So um, as far as homeowners, there's several 100,000 that use it on a weekly basis to
Mm-hmm.
get their grass cut. And on the other side of the transaction for lawn care services, it does vary, but the sweet spot for us is in your first year, we want to get you 100 weekly customers on an ongoing basis. We want to make it to where you can make $100,000 a year mowing yards 8, 9, 10 months out of the year. That's our goal. Like we want you to be able to make material income. And so, and so for like new business owners that may only have like one or two customers, and they're like, okay, I want to use this Greenpal thing. We want to be able to give you a crack at a swing at the plate of like 20 or 30 customers that week, and you need to be able to like win and close two or three that first week, and then the following week another two and three. And as time goes on, you build this portfolio of clients on top of the Greenpal platform. It's still your business. It's still your lawn company. These are still your customers, but we give you the platform that you plug into to where you can accumulate reviews. We also measure statistics about your business, how often you show up on time, how often people book you for a second lawn mowing. So your business is kind of measured on all of these metrics, so we can kind of surface the reliable, good lawn mowing services, and then demote and actually expel the unreliable ones. And so that does a couple things. It gets people out of the business that don't need to be in the business,
Yeah.
because not everybody's cut out for this business. And then it also promotes the ones that are reliable, want to work hard, just want to take care of their clients. We surface them to where they can get more clients. And so it does those two things at the same time. And what we have found is if we can't get you, two or three customers in your first week, then you
Mhm.
lose interest and then you churn out.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of like one of the things we have stumbled upon is balancing like supply and demand. Is like we don't need to get too many service providers, because then we're not serving anybody. And it's been a nuanced thing, and one thing, and it's something that like even now to this day we're using data to understand better and better.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I wanted to highlight is that with organic, it's harder to control the demand, right? Whereas with paid, you can press a button and you know that there's an economical thing, like amount of people that are come in. So how do you make predictions based off organic traffic?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to demand side, homeowner side, more, 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 it doesn't matter. Get us more. Like, so we don't have to throttle that. Matter of fact, we're always trying to make that go up and to the right. And so it's like, okay, we're ranking in this metro. Our landing pages are generating X number of traffic, and we're ranking 1, 2, or 3. How do we like rank number one uniformly? And like also, how do we acquire more traffic as it relates to yard maintenance or tree trimming or shrub pruning, like ancillary things?
Mhm.
So it's never ending. Like we will always, we can, well, it's not like we can't like not serve a homeowner. On the supply side, we have done some little bit of paid marketing for that side on Facebook, just to juice some markets, but most of
Mhm.
that's organic as well. And if we've determined that in your zip code we have too many suppliers, we just put you on a waiting list. We don't let you in. And so that's how we kind of balance supply and demand. But on the homeowner side, more the merrier. And I mean, we could cut every yard in the United States at some point.
No, what I was saying is like is the predictability with organic. So what you were saying though is that you usually would have more content go out to track more people, and that's kind of like the strategy you use. So then I guess you predict off each piece of content how many customers you'd get off each piece of content. Is that kind of how you?
Not necessarily, because every market's different. Like a Chicago, is going to perform differently than a Des Moines. And
I don't know what
so
that
what you
is.
really do is you focus less on you focus less on just uniformly trying to be everywhere, and you focus when you're building a marketplace like this. It's like, I want to be really good in 20 places, and I want to get them as good as I can, so then I can continue to go downstream. And so, like for us, a big market for us is Tampa, Florida. And so, doing
Sure.
thousands and thousands of transactions in Tampa, Florida, it's like, how do we do even more? Because we know we're not even like penetrating the market more than like a couple of percent. And so
Mhm.
one of our philosophies is to do more things of stuff that's working, and not try to fix things that are not working. And so, in terms of like trying to model out, okay, we know we need to like generate this much demand in this market, therefore we know we need to create this amount of content. It's more like, we know we need to be in Omaha, Nebraska. Identify every city in Omaha, Nebraska of over 40,000 people, and let's create content, and then let it go, and then see how it does.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
One thing, when you're talking about the take rate, the percentage that you take from the service providers, what's the percentage you take?
10%.
10%,
Yeah,
eh?
10%. And so that is how we monetize the transaction. And then also we have a set of tools that they can subscribe to as well, service
Hmm.
providers.
Upsell.
And what's like the weekly average volume you do in transactions, like revenue?
Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it depends on like the time of year.
Hmm.
But when we started, it was, I think we ended our first year, did like $11,000. And so it's like, it started small, but we kept on growing on and on and on, and this constantly staying on it to where we were doubling every year.
Hmm.
And as we have doubled every single year for the last 5 years. We're going to try to double this year, but that number keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Now I've now you've been in business for like so many years. What would you do if you had to restart? How would you attack it?
Hmm.
It's a big question. I know it's a loaded one.
It's tough, because you always look back, knowing what I know now, I could do what has taken us 8 years and probably a year and a half, maybe two. And so, there's all kinds of things you do differently, and you would do different and faster. But the challenge is like, you don't want to like let that like misguide you, because you kind of have to get started. You have to, and the only way to like learn is through experience. And so
Hmm.
a lot of times when you look at entrepreneurs that are just crushing it, like maybe they raised a big round of funding, or they just sold their business for 50 million or 500 million or a billion, and you're like, damn, how'd they do that in 2 or 3 years? And you don't realize it's like, well, in 2005 they had this side project that they hacked on for 4 years, and then in
Yeah.
2009 they started this other company that pissed away $10 million in revenue. And then in 2012, they worked at this other startup for a couple of years. And then actually this one you thought they started last year, they started in 2014. And so like, you're looking at like the finished product of like 20 years or 10 years of like that person grinding. So that's something I've learned over time. It's like, it doesn't even where, no matter when the clock starts on what you're doing, like it started a long time before that on other things you were doing and getting experience from. And so, like looking back, I've done a lot of things different, but now it's because I have the experience. I have like the actual tactical knowledge, and also the ability to kind of manage my own psychology. Like these are things that I don't think there's any shortcut to acquire. And so, but that said, what would I have done differently? I'd have figured out ways to delegate a lot quicker. But then again, that's what got me in trouble in the first place. We wasted over $100,000 building the
Oh,
first
got
version
you.
of Greenpal, delegated too quickly.
Mhm.
But then, we went through a 3-4 year period of time where we didn't delegate at all. And so if I could go back and do it again, I'd have figured out how to delegate quicker and build out a team quicker. So that's one thing I definitely do differently. And then I kind of have a unique background, because I've built a blue collar kind of like hand-to-hand combat traditional type type of business, and then I've also built a tech company. And so I see kind of how those two things come together. And I think like moving forward 5, 10 years, there's a real opportunity for anybody in any kind of business to think like a tech business. So it doesn't matter if you're like a dentist, if you think about your company like a tech company, you run circles around your competition. Or it doesn't matter if like you're a home cleaning service, if you had an online portal that was really clean that your customers could use to book you and schedule you, they would book you over your competitors. So like if every business thinks like a tech company, and almost like every business like has engineers that work for them, they could really outwork their competitors and make more money than their competitors. So that's something that I've learned over the last 8 years.
I'd like to add on to that as well, because one thing that you did as well is you treated your company like a content hub as well. So if they can combine the tech plus the content hub, they can become even more competitive, because then people are coming to them for the knowledge, and they'll get that know, like, and trust way faster. And plus the
Exactly.
tech,
Exactly. Like if you, whether people in your audience want to start a new tech startup, or they just want to, make $1 million a year and retire in 5 years, if you have a roofing company and your clients are commercial building owners, and you create the best piece of content on how to get snow off of your roof in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and like you invest in that, you will be the market leader in 3 or 4 years if you continually invest in that. And then figure out ways to leverage tech to make your roofing company easier to use, reducing the friction for your customers, and making it more delightful to do business with you over the other yahoos in your niche. Using content and technology to work circles around your competition. Like this can apply to any business, tech startup or a roofing company.
That's a fact. That's a
One
fact.
one of the things that about you is you've bootstrapped your business up to now. Just learning about your story, you've bootstrapped it. Are you looking to raise any more money to get to the next level? Like perhaps get more service providers, get more, build a bit bigger team, and et cetera. What's your philosophy now that you've bootstrapped and now you're looking like for the next 5 years? Are you looking to get VC funding and et cetera? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a really good question. For me, building my first business, the fact that I built it debt free, built it with no outside investors, was the reason why I was able to kind of get it across the finish line and get it sold. Building that company, my balance sheet was super clean. And so when it came time to buy my company, it was a lot more attractive. Whereas a lot of my competitors, they might have had a $5 million landscaping company, but they also had $5 million in debt. So they didn't really have anything to sell. For me, that kind of ethos carried all the way through now to Greenpal. I'm 8 years in. And so I never really liked the traditional, I guess, narrative of, okay, you start a tech company and you go raise our angel round of funding, and then you go raise a series A and a series B, C, D. For me, it never really appealed to me. And we dabbled in it. And, the first year we were like, oh, we got to raise some angel funding. That's what everybody's doing. And so then you started looking at like, okay, I gotta run around town or I got to go to the Bay or something and try to grovel a $50,000 check out of somebody. And it's like, I'd rather just build this product and like make 50 grand. I would rather do that. And so that was what I was gravitated towards. I was gravitated more towards let's build a product. Let's hustle up some users. Let's make 10 grand this month. And then next month, try to make 12, rather than like going all around trying to like hustle up these little angel checks. And so that's why we never really did that. And I think that's a bet you have to make in the infancy of the company. You rarely see a company like ours go 5 years bootstrapped and then raise money. It's like you raise money and then that sets off a chain reaction of events where you have to raise more and more and more and more and more. Yeah. And then it either works out or it doesn't. And most times it doesn't work out. And going on the journey of like raising capital and using that capital to grow the business is a bad bet for most entrepreneurs. It does not end well for most entrepreneurs. And so for me, like I liken it to if I wanted to, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. And so every year, tens of thousands of people come here because they want to be the next like Keith Urban or something. And it's like, the reality is, no, you're not. You're just not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like,
It's not happening.
3 of y'all are going to make it. 10,000 of y'all got here. And like those dynamics are pretty much the same in tech startup land. Like they're pretty much the same. I know it sounds like a crass example, but like, I'm not going to LA and I'm not going to be the next
Movie
like
star.
Brad Pitt, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just not going to happen. And so that's a bad bet. And the dynamics of starting a tech startup and raising capital for it are pretty much the same. Like, you look at Y Combinator, which is the NFL of the NFL of tech startups, you know, Airbnb, Instacart, Stripe, like they have like
Dropbox.
Yeah, Dropbox. Like, there's probably 50 of those names, huge names, apps on your phone, yeah, decacorns. And you're like, wow. What you don't realize is they have, like, over 15 years, they have funded something like 4,000 companies.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the NFL, like, this is like the top of the, like, this
elite,
is the mountaintop.
Elite of
the elite of the elite of the elite.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still 50 names that matter out of 4,000.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the reality is, you know, I mean, I'm not going to be the next like Mac Miller. I'm not going to make it in the hip hop game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yes, Mac Miller did, like, you know, but it's like, no, that's not going to happen to you. Like, it's just not. It's just not. So you got to, like, you have to. For me, it's a better bet to take a more sustainable approach and look at it like a 5, 10, 20-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you know, you don't have to work anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact. It's funny you said that. I actually was going to make a Def Jam example, because Def Jam, I guess, could be, or Universal could be compared to a Y Combinator.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
there's
a lot of artists that get signed, but not a lot of them make it.
You don't hear this talked about very often, but the dynamics in tech startup land are about the same as signing a record deal. Or trying to, like, make it as an actor, or really anything else. Like, the one, there's 1% of 1% that make it, and everybody else just wasted 10 or 15 years of their life. Mm-hmm. I'm not, now, all that to be said, you look at your phone, every app on that home screen is venture backed. Yep. Every app, and maybe even every artist you listen to on Spotify signed a deal, with rare exceptions. And so it's like, I mean, I get it, but it wasn't the bet I wanted to take.
Yeah, there's a few of them. And the thing is too, is that, you know, the people who don't do it and still make it, or make it to a small, to like a niche community, you know, like Chameleonaire, for instance, has the Convos app, and that has a niche community that he's serving, you know.
Would you for 10 years rather, like, grind on something that's making you $1 million a year that you sell for 20 million? Or would you rather have a 1 in 1,000 ticket at something you could sell for $1 billion?
It's a great question, man.
1 over 1,000 ticket, eh? Jeez.
1 out of 1,000. Would you rather have a 1 out of 1,000 chance to sell something for $1 billion, or a 50-50 shot for selling something for 20 million, so long as you just grind for 10 years? You know, I don't know. Like, it's just different journeys, different paths.
The 1 in 1,000 is like the get rich or die mentality.
It's get rich or die trying, and it really, that is what venture capital is.
Yeah.
Because the other thing too is, it's like me observing how this stuff has unfolded the last 8 years in my vertical. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of really good companies try to attack the push a button and get the lawn mowed thing, who have burned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of venture capital doing it. And you look at those companies and you're like, damn, you know, that might have worked out if they just didn't try to grow too fast. And the thing is, like, venture capital, like, puts this pressure on you. It's like, we just gave you $5 million. You have to grow this thing 1,000% in the next 18 months, mm-hmm. or else we're replacing you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, when it works, it's a beautiful thing. But most of the time it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. That's a fact. Working towards wrapping up, man. For people that are just starting, you know, in that startup phase, what advice do you have for them as they try to build their business out, doing their Shopify businesses, doing their B2B businesses, you know, in their second year, trying to get their first hire up? What advice do you have for those people?
For me, you know, I think advice is like, somebody's story or experience like scripted onto them. And so
Mhm.
I'll do that. For me, what got me through the hard years was just like, I'm always going to be working on my best idea. And that's just that's not negotiable. Like, that's just who I am. I'm going to be working on my best idea. So like, this is my best idea. I'm going to keep working on it. And I think a lot of times, like, the impatience gets a lot of new entrepreneurs in trouble. They want something to like blow up in a year or two, and they don't realize, like, no, it's like it's like you're learning a lot through this process to apply, and like to later years, and like really it starts to take on like a snowball effect, and they don't stick with it long enough to let the momentum build, and so
Mhm.
that causes a lot of newbies to get in trouble, and burn out. I mean, the other thing is like, I just read a book by a guy by the name of Donald Miller, and it's called a Thousand Miles in a Million Years. And what he talks about in this book is that, like, to live an interesting life, you have to live an interesting story.
Mhm.
And if you think about yourself as the hero, the main character of your story, and like you're overcoming these obstacles, and you're overcoming these challenges to get to where you want to be, and like that's your storyline of your life. And for me, like, I'm reading this book, and it really made sense to me, because like my business is the thing that lends story to my life. It is the storyline of my life. For 20 years, being in business, overcoming challenges, achieving a degree of success, like, it is the highs, it is the storyline. And so if you look at your business as in that way, if you reframe it and think, okay, this business is like the storyline to my life,
Mhm.
it can help you see the long game, the big picture. And a lot of times that's kind of how you can manage your own psychology to get through it, and spend 5-10 years building something, and that's how you can kind of make something of yourself.
Amazing.
Um,
Right.
Last question, Brian. Like, what motivates you? You mean you've had success, you sold a business, you have a sustainable business right now. What is it from a personal level that motivates you each and every day to keep going? And what are you chasing as a man, like as you're on this journey?
Yeah,
And before you answer that, was it an 8-figure exit?
yeah. The first one was an 8-figure exit, and now the
Eight
second
figure
one, the
exit.
second
So I
one's
just wanted to put that out there as well. It was an
uh,
8-figure exit.
and the
Mhm.
second one's going to be 9. Um,
Jeez.
but
Jeez, 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 jeez.
but
Got shot.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, it's not all. I mean, everybody says this, but it's not all about the money. And it really isn't. Like, for me, business is the thing that lends purpose to my life. Like,
Mhm.
it is the reason why I get out of bed. And so, like, a question you can ask yourself is, if it weren't for me, then X. If it wasn't for me, then what? And like, if it wasn't for me, then like there's dozens of people that wouldn't have a job that work in this company, and there's tens of thousands of lawn mowing services that use the technology. They wouldn't have it. And so, like, that's like, I carry that burden almost. So that's my purpose. It's like, if it wasn't for me, then these things wouldn't happen, and that's what causes me to continue to keep going. The other thing is like, business is like the thing that causes me to level up. The last 8 years of building this company have caused me to do things I didn't want to do, read blog posts I didn't want to read, watch shit on YouTube I didn't want to watch, take online classes I never would in a million years would have taken. But like I'm a different person today than I was 8 years ago, and it's because of this business. And that's the beautiful thing about business that keeps me going.
Amazing. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, the hustle is what you can't control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex,
I'm Owen.
I'm Brian. Thanks for having me on, guys.
and that's Hustle Over Everything.
Of course.
Peace, y'all.
Peace out, guys.
Boom. You caught it.
All right, good deal. Good
Yes,
deal. I'm
indeed.
excited to hear this thing when it goes out. I'll help promote it when it goes live.
Yeah, I would
Awesome,
appreciate that,
man.
man.
Thank you so much for listening. The conversation continues on our Instagram at 24/7hustler. We post very frequently. And be sure to check out our merch at hustleovereverything.co. We have some amazing sweaters, hats, mugs, and a lot more. Lastly, our Proud to Pay program is linked in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Talk to you next Monday. Peace.